Donald Trump has been on a rampage ever since he got sworn in as the 47th president. He's ignoring court orders. He's sending innocent people to El Salvadorian prisons. He is shutting off funding he doesn't like. He's shutting down agencies he doesn't like. He's going after the free press. He's going after law firms. And all the while, most Republicans have just stood silently by as he completely wreaks havoc on our entire country. But now that the economy is heading down the tubes, now that the markets are falling off a cliff, now that uncertainty has been injected into nearly every sector of our economy, well, finally, we have at least a few of them who are standing up and speaking out against these insane tariffs. And don't get me wrong, I think it's good that they're speaking out against these tariffs, but it really just kind of says something about where our country's at when you've got innocent people being sent off to a gulag in El Salvador, and this is the straw that broke the camel's back. It's the economy, stupid, and I guess they were right. Here's Rand Paul discussing how the Republicans even got here. How is it possible that it's the Republicans who are arguing for protectionism when Ronald Reagan, of course, was a free trade warrior?
How did the Republican Party get here, Senator?
How did we all get here? I mean, the whole debate is so fundamentally backwards and upside down. It's based on a fallacy. And the fallacy is this, that somehow in a trade, someone must lose. That somehow when you trade with someone, there's a loser and someone's taking advantage of you and China's ripping you off or Japan's ripping you off. It's absolutely a fallacy. Every trade that occurs in the marketplace is mutually beneficial. If you have a free society and I trade with you, if you want to sell me your coat and I give you $200 for it, we both agree to it and we're both happy with the trade. No American consumer trades with China. They trade with Walmart, or they may buy something from China, but they individually buy something they want and they make a decision. The trade is always a win-win. Now, you can artificially do this accounting between countries and say, oh, trade deficit, look at this trade deficit. But I have a trade deficit with my grocery store. The people who employ me, if I work for Corvette and they employ me, they have a trade deficit with my labor. They buy my labor and I never buy their cars. So you can have this artificial accounting and it makes it look like a bad thing, but you have to ask yourself, is trade good or bad? And if you look at the trade deficit, in times of a recession, the trade deficit goes down. So if the tariffs push us into a recession, we could reduce the trade deficit because we're all buying less stuff. We have to get back to the fundamentals of, is trade good or is trade bad?
Rand Paul is absolutely right, and this is something we've been screaming about on this channel for weeks now. A trade deficit is not an inherently bad thing, and we are an economic superpower, so it makes sense that we buy more from other countries than they buy for us. But when you have a president of the United States who has a twisted, conspiracy-brained view of how tariffs work, what trade deficits are, and how every single country has been ripping America off, we get these insane tariffs that make absolutely no sense to anybody at all. I mean, they are so astronomically high that even some in Trump's own circles didn't think that they were real. I mean, that is how insane that these tariffs are. And Rand Paul is making a good point here. If I go into my barber and I pay for my haircut, I don't get anything in return except the haircut that I wanted. And that is exactly how free trade works all over the world. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't trade barriers that we can talk about, but to use these blunt tariffs in the way that Donald Trump is, using these conspiracy-brained ideas, is absolutely not the right way to go, because he doesn't have an understanding of how any of this works. He's telling the American people to suffer so he can, play with his little science experiment. Oh, let's go ahead and see if these tariffs actually work like I think they work or think they worked since the 80s. I mean, that is what is really going on here. So Rand Paul is absolutely right to point it out that this is all based on a fallacy. Donald Trump is living in a fantasy land, and he has absolutely no idea how any of these things work. And then he goes on to say that, there's a lot of Republicans behind the scenes that are telling him to keep on going, keep on fighting for free trade, which is just absolutely pathetic because, of course we want all of these people to come and speak out against these tariffs, but listen to Rand Paul and what he says.
Maybe getting some support and some praise from Democrats, but the support and praise from Republicans, you're saying that you're getting it, but these are individuals that you don't even want to be on the record for saying that. Is that fair to say?
It's a quiet whisper, and people come up to me in the hall. You know how in Atlas Shrugged, they would come up and say, "Who is John Galt?" They whisper in my ear, "Free trade is good. Keep going, keep going." But they don't want to say it because of the politics of it. And look, when I put free trade articles on my Twitter account, I get mobbed. I mean, I get what they call ratioed. I get more comments than likes, which they say isn't good. But we have to have this debate. And people have to understand that trade is between individuals, not countries, and it's a false accounting. So I'm committed to this. I'll keep talking about it. And there's one graph, if you look at it, and it has trade. Trade for the last 70 years went up exponentially, international trade, but so did GDP per capita. We get wealthy with trade, not without trade. It's such a fundamental debate that it's worth having.
Again, he's absolutely right about this. We can see a curve over the past number of decades where prosperity has been unlocked because of all of the free trade that we do with all of these countries around the world. And because we are the economic superpower, because we are the top dog, or at least we were the top dog on the world stage, we were the ones who could normally dictate the deals. And we used to do things with free trade agreements where we could actually bring up working conditions for people in other countries. They would have to meet a certain threshold. I mean, there were so many good benefits from free trade. Not only did we get cheaper products, but we ourselves here in America, we could focus on higher end exports. Like all of our software and all, like Silicon Valley is a prime example. We don't need to be assembling toasters or making socks because we have figured out ways to trade around the world, and we can focus on higher end products, which makes everybody in the United States more prosperous. And it also makes the countries that we're trading with more prosperous because they can focus in on what they're good at and they can raise their standard of living as well. But Donald Trump seems to have no understanding of any of this at all. And it's absolutely pathetic that all of these Republicans behind the scenes, they agree that Donald Trump is an absolute idiot. These tariffs aren't going to work the way he says they are going to work. But they won't come out and stand up for the American people who, by the way, overwhelming majority disagree with Donald Trump's tariffs. Everybody knows that a tariff is a tax that is going to be paid by the consumer. So prices all around the country are going to rise up, and it's the American people who are going to pay the costs of those tariffs. So these Republicans need to stand up for what is right. They need to speak out against Daddy Trump because they are supposed to be representing their constituents, not worrying about their loyalty to dear leader. These people are absolutely pathetic. They then go on to talk about how we have to work from a factual reality, which is something I hammer on and on about on this channel because Donald Trump, like I said, is living in a fantasy land.
But we have to start from talking about the truth. One of the things they say with Canada is, oh, there's a 270% tariff on dairy products going from the U.S. into Canada. Well, you know what the real tariff is? Zero. That's a big difference between what the truth is. So there's a certain amount of goods, dairy goods, that go to Canada every year, and they go at 0%. If we exceed a certain amount, there's this ridiculous 270% tariff, but we've never encountered it. And the USMC renegotiated it and raised the level that's under zero. Trump should be congratulated for USMC raising the amount of dairy that goes in at zero. But we have to have an honest debate. We can't go around saying that there's a 270% tariff when that's not really the truth.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a prime example of how Donald Trump has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. He always says that, oh, Canada charges us 250% tariffs on all of our dairy. But then you go talk to the dairy exporters and you find out that, yeah, there's a threshold Anything below that threshold has 0 tariffs. And the threshold is so high that the dairy exporters have never hit it, which means they never pay tariffs on their dairy exports. But Donald Trump has been trying to convince the country that Canada is taking advantage of us by implementing these huge 250% tariffs on dairy products so he can move forward with this very stupid idea. This is a problem. This is the problem when you have a president who is living in a fantasy land. He is living in a conspiracy bubble that is built on a web of lies, and he is now using those lies to inflict economic warfare on pretty much the entire world at this point, and it's the American people who are going to get hurt. These people are absolutely insane. They then go on to talk about how, yes, maybe some sectors of our economy got hollowed out, like factories and things like that, but that was also made up in higher end production.
Over the last 50 years, losing 60,000 factories. What should we have done about that? You can see where the president's coming from.
Yes and no. If you look at the last 60 or 70 years of household income, the lower class under 50,000 shrunk slightly. The middle class shrunk slightly. And you know where they all went? To the upper class. Over $100,000 category tripled in constant dollars over the last 70 years. The truth is just, we have to discuss the truth. The middle class shrunk slightly, but they became richer. So, you know, there's so many good facts on this. Steven Pinker's written about it. Humanprogress.org has written about this. We have to work on facts, and it's the job really to point out fallacies. It is a fallacy that people have gotten poor. The world is richer than it's ever been. 100,000 people leave poverty every day.
Yeah, and he's exactly right about that. There's always this misconception that all of these factory jobs left and then all of these people were left out of work, but nobody remembers that we're at a 4% unemployment right now. Where are all these workers going to come from? If Donald Trump is trying these mass deportations, do you think that's going to lower or raise our unemployment? And not to mention, all of these factory jobs, many people maybe got hurt by them, and maybe we didn't do the best job of figuring out how to transition those people into something new, but our standard of living has only been rising. And like I said, we're doing more higher end manufacturing, and we are still the second largest manufacturer in the world, right here in the United States. So we do need to operate on facts. We do need to realize that we still do a ton of manufacturing in this country. And bringing toaster manufacturing back, whatever other random items, we don't want to necessarily bring all those back to America. Not only for one, we don't have the workers that are going to do those jobs, but for two, they're shittier jobs. And not many Americans are going to want to do them because we have higher value production that we can engage in. So it is just, again, this conspiracy worldview that Donald Trump and his administration is operating under is just, it's an absolute shame. And although things are not perfect, and although we can always improve our situation, all of this manufacturing that we decided we were going to offshore so we could do higher end manufacturing here has been a net good for the United States of America. And I'll just show you this one last clip here where they're talking about, we can't just keep on working from this Trump conspiracy bubble. It is foolish.
Well, that's why we can't give up on this. This isn't me versus Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump. I've supported most of his cabinet. I'm a chairman of a committee. I've pushed his people through. Will continue to do so. I want to cut spending. I want to balance the budget. I support so many things, but I can't support a fallacy that is going to make us lose our wealth. I have a retirement account too. I want my retirement account to stay there, and I think tariffs is going to decimate it.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. Donald Trump's conspiracy brain, his fantasy land that he lives in, him and Howard Lutnick, God, the biggest idiot in the world, they are hurting Americans. We've seen the markets fall off a cliff, people's retirement accounts are being decimated, and that is all to be blamed on Donald Trump. There is a straight line from his bad economic policy to these bad economic indicators. This is Donald Trump's fault. This is a Trump tax that is going to be bared by the American people. It is the American people who are going to pay all of these tariffs that Donald Trump is now implementing. He's, going up to 100 and some odd percent to China now because he thinks that all of these different countries are just going to lay down and take it. Like, he is an absolutely idiotic man. He has absolutely no idea how these things work. He's operating under a false or a misconception about all of these jobs that left here, but he doesn't realize that they've been replaced and that our standards of living are actually going up. It's all just a game of fantasy land for Donald Trump. He's been talking about these tariffs since the 1980s, and now he's finally in a place where he can throw them into place and see if they actually work. And it's going to be the American people who suffer because of it. So, I will take Rand Paul speaking out about this issue. I think more Republicans need to stand up for what is right. They need to be out there talking about these tariffs and how devastating they are going to be for the American people. And we all need to start operating from the same factual reality. We cannot just have Donald Trump repeating shit over and over and over again, all of these lies to try to force everybody to live in his reality, when the facts on the ground are the facts on the ground. We need to deal in reality. And we need to hammer on these Republicans to get out and speak against Donald Trump and maybe take some of their power back so they can roll some of these catastrophic decisions back and go from there. But I guess good on Rand Paul. I mean, again, I think it's a shame that this is the issue that is making people finally stand up and speak out when we have innocent people being sent to the gulag in El Salvador. But I will take it, and more people need to step up and do it. So I will leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We're trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against this right-wing media ecosystem that just shovels shit for Donald Trump every single day. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. And if you want to see how Donald Trump could pretty much care less about the markets falling off a cliff, people's retirement accounts being decimated, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.